concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
Boom. I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. It's Monday night. It's Monday night where I am. It's really late Monday night where some of you are. It's Monday night. It's 8 p.m., and it's time to do some Q and A. That's where you ask questions, and I answer them. How you guys doing tonight? Hello, chat. Hello, Ferociter FPV. Hello, Jared Tiki 723. J Scales, where's the beer? I don't always drink beer on Monday nights. Tonight, this is, let's just say it's lemonade. It's close enough to lemonade. Crash FPV is wearing this shirt right now. FPV is not a crime. Yeah, they got this shirt from Quadbox. Thank you, Quadbox. That is my favorite thing about Quadbox. First plug of the live stream is for Quadbox by sheer chance. I would subscribe to Quadbox only to get a new interesting t-shirt. Some people don't like the t-shirts. They think they're dumb. Quadbox not for you. It's not lemonade. It's gin and tonic. Calm down. Yeah. So we're going to get to some questions in just a second, but I thought I would start the stream by showing you guys this. This is where I used to work before I became a full-time YouTuber. And I saw this post on their Facebook page today, and I thought, summer's coming. Our work designing and implementing Wi-Fi at the national parks is heating up. Many of these parks will need point-to-point microwave links to interconnect buildings at various locations. The next few months are going to be busy here at Connect 802. They started that project when I was right before I left. I went out and did the initial site walks at one of the national parks. And I was just thinking, I saw this today and I thought how glad I am. Don't get me wrong, I liked the job. It was a great company to work for. They treated me great. The people were great. And I did, in fact, enjoy the work. But given the choice between staying home and playing with quadcopters and managing people installing wireless links in a national park in the middle of the summer, I know which one I'd rather be doing. I'd rather be here with you guys. So thank you so much for making that possible. We're going to start on a high note. In case it's your first time here, let me just show you what I got up on my screen here. This is what I'm looking at on my main screen. And here on the right, that's the Twitch chat. I'm going to be checking that out. Here underneath that, I've got the super chats in. And here's the thing about the super chats. I try to answer everybody's questions that get asked me. But the live stream comes so fast and furious, I can't get to them all. So if you like, you can hit that $ right there. Show your support. Throw a couple bucks at me. Your question will get pulled out into the super chats, and I will make sure to get to it. There's almost 100% chance I'll get to it, although I have, once in a while, I have missed them. And I am also monitoring the live stream chat. This is my Patreon Discord server, my patron Discord server. If you check down in the video description, there's a link to my Patreon page where you can support me for a couple bucks a month or more, if you like. And one of the benefits you get is you get access to my Discord server. So that's the deal. And we're going to dive right in with a question from Jarud FPV. What are the settings for the JB Micro Eagle? So I have a camera, in case you didn't know, the JB Micro Eagle. And I loved the Micro Eagle. I still do, but I did. Yeah, thumbs up if you got that reference. I love the Micro Eagle, but I thought that there were a couple changes that could be made to the tuning of the Micro Eagle. So I partnered with Rotoride and RunCam. Oh, it's in stock. Holy crap. It hasn't been in stock forever. Hang on. I got to get a couple. I partnered with RunCam to customize the settings in the Micro Eagle. But here's the thing. The settings are not a secret. You don't have. I appreciate if you choose to buy the camera, but it's like I'm going to charge you extra just to get those custom settings. So the settings for the JB Micro Eagle are the main thing we did. I'm going to type this into the chat while I talk. The main thing we did is we took edge and detail sharpening down to, I think it was either 3 or 4. Let's say it's 4 because it's on a scale of 1 to 15, and max gain to 1. That prevents or mostly eliminates the white flashes when you do backflips. Edge and detail sharpening for max gain 1, and I think it's brightness 36. But I think that's I can't remember if that's actually just the default. So those are the main thing we did is we turned the edge and detail sharpening down so that you didn't get this super, super shimmery look, and we turned the max gain down to fix the white flash. So there you go. Flange Monkey over in the Discord asks, what are your thoughts on F3 ESCs? So, like, for example, you're thinking of this ESC. Here's a good example of it. The Holy Bro Techo F3 ESC. These are ESCs that run BL 32, but instead of having I think they're called like a BB2 processor, they actually have an F3. Look at that, F350K8. They have an F3 processor on them. In other words, the same processor that's on the SP Racing F3 is running your ESC now. Now, that may sound like a good thing, but in fact, it doesn't freaking matter. And it's just my opinion about it. The code that is currently running on BL32 ESCs is not limited by the processing ability or the flash space or anything of the chip. So putting an F3 on the ESC makes it future-proofed. Like, in theory, tomorrow, the BL devs could come out with a version of BL that only runs on F3 chips. But they haven't. And until they do, there is no advantage. There's no additional functionality. There's no improvement in, no one has demonstrated, at least, any improvement in performance to running an F3 ESC. So these F3 ESCs, like if you look at this Holy Bro ESC, it'll have like metal FETs and all this other good stuff. So like you could, if you look at an F3 ESC and go, oh, that's a good ESC, I'll buy it. Buy it. But don't buy it because it has an F3. There's literally no benefit today to getting an F3 ESC. That's my opinion, and no one yet has told me different. How do I get on the Heath McTaggart? How do I get on the Discord with you? I'm a patron. If you are a patron, then message me on Patreon and I'll send you the info you need. That's how you can do that. What the hell am I drinking, Jack Clark? What am I drinking? Water. Water. David Lasowski says, I've been through 3 of your ESCs, my ESCs. With your flight controller, 1900 kV 6S, the T-Motor F80s don't like it. It freaks out and desyncs. Beautiful. I'm sorry to hear that, David. We tested that ESC pretty widely, but when you're running F80 motors on 6S, that is, if it's going to have troubles, that's the setup it's going to have troubles on. Those are massive motors. The back EMF on those motors is insane. I mean, I would say you definitely added a gigantic capacitor, right? Because if you're frying my ESC running F80s on 6S and you haven't added like a gigantic capacitor, then I'm going to be like, well, okay, what do you expect? So definitely throw a big old, like 1,000 microfarad, 35 volt capacitor on there for sure. Dusty Aldrich wants to know, what's a good beginner goggle for a good price but thin like Fat Sharks? Dusty, the EV200D from Eachine is the one that I recommend if you're looking. Oh, there's my review of it. You can check out my review of it if you want. This is the EV200D. If you're looking for a budget Fat Shark style goggle, this is the one I usually recommend. The other one that I mention is the Elmway Commander, which a lot of people, about the same price, maybe a little cheaper. A lot of people have had good experiences with it. Here's the thing though. What I actually recommend you do is you buy a secondhand, a used Fat Shark goggle in good condition. The thing is that, and I said this I'm not going to harp on this the whole live stream, but since somebody asked, the only goggle out there that you can get aftermarket service on is Fat Shark. Am I wrong about that? Occasionally you'll hear stories of people who, if you buy a goggle and it dies the week after you get it, then like Banggood or Get FPV or whoever will replace it potentially. But if you buy it and 3 months later it's broken, you're just out of luck unless it's a Fat Shark. Nobody else actually has a service center. So I would actually rather recommend you spend $300 on a 2-year-old HD3 that still is in okay condition than $300 on a brand new EV200D that could 2 months from now die and leave you up a creek. That's what I would say. All right. Keep going. Let's keep going. What BL32 ESC timing do you recommend for a 5-inch 6S freestyle build? I like auto timing for all freestyle builds. I think it gives slightly smoother motors. Going to a timing of 24 gives a little bit more power and a little bit less efficiency. But for freestyle, I would always use auto timing. ETA for a good Betaflight 4.1, asks Brian Acker. What was wrong with 4.0? Well, Brian, there were some things wrong with 4.0. You can look up my video. Betaflight 4.0 is trying to kill you, is the title of the video. Talking about basically the default PIDs in Betaflight 4.0 were a little bit too aggressive for a lot of people's quads and were causing them to fly to the moon, even some people with burn motors. Betaflight 4.01 came out with revised PIDs and filtering. And then 4.02 came out. They found a small bug that they fixed. So 4.1 is coming in like September, and that's a major release with new features and stuff. 4.02 is out now, and that's the latest as of today that would give you... Some people had no problem with 4.0, but a little bit better. Skyfly wants to know, do you think Project Mockingbird is good for the Tiny Hawk? Do I? I'm going to keep saying that until I finish typing this. Do I think Project Mockingbird is good for the Tiny Hawk? I think it's so good that I made a video about how freaking good it was. Emacs Project Mockingbird, the best it's ever flown. In fact, I got to tell you, I think the Project Mockingbird flies kind of not great out of the box. But you put Mockingbird on it and wow, it's good. So yeah, definitely do that. Let's see here. Tarsier. MC's Creations wants to know about the Tarsier. The Tarsier camera from Foxeer. tarsier. By the way, what is a tarsier? Is it a rodent? Because everybody's naming their cameras after rodents. I don't know why. The Caddx tarsier. Let's see. Who are we going to... I saw it on Facebook today. I think they officially announced it. But this is a combo 4K and 4K high def and FPV camera, similar to the Runcam Split or the Caddx Turtle. But the difference is that the Runcam Split and the Caddx Turtle use the same camera for FPV and for high def recording. And what that means is that you get additional latency in the camera feed. And if the high def camera takes a dump, you crash because you can't see what you're doing. So the idea with the tarsier is that by having two separate cameras, one traditional FPV camera and one 4K 60 frame per second, whatever high def, it's not 4K 60, it's like 4K 30 or 2.7K 60. Anyway, you have a separate camera for high def recording. Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I think there's a place for it. We'll see how good the performance is, but I think there's a place for it. I have traditionally stayed away from cameras like the Runcam Split, the Foxeer, the Caddx Turtle, because I don't want to trust my whole quad to this high def camera that, like, if the SD card comes disconnected, it locks up. I didn't make that up. They've done that. So I don't, and I just put a GoPro on my 5-inch. I only like those Caddx, Turtle, etc., those combo style high def cameras on very small quads where the size really matters. But this, there could be a place for this. Watch UAV Tech. Wicked FPV says, watch UAV Tech for Betaflight 4.0 filter tuning. He rocks. Yeah, UAV Tech, his name is Mark Spatz. He even shows up around here every now and then. And Mark Spatz, UAV Tech on YouTube. And he is just the man when it comes to Betaflight PID and filter tuning. Yep. I mean, there's a lot of other people out there who are as good as him at it, but they don't make videos. So let's jump down. I got a couple super chats that I got to take care of, and then we'll jump over to the Discord and say hello to the patrons. Now we've given the YouTube chat there. I always like to start with the YouTube chat just so people know that, I help everybody. I don't just help people who throw money at me. Artemis FPV, thank you for $5 in the super chat. Artemis says, I am having trouble. Hi, Strip Club. I'm having trouble setting up smart audio on Raceflight Revolt 2. When I run the Lua script, the screen is blank. The first thing you got to do, Artemis, to get the Lua script working is get telemetry working. You're running the Raceflight Lua script. Are you running the Raceflight Lua script, Artemis? Because Raceflight and Betaflight Lua script are different. That's another thing, or Flight 1 Lua script. To be honest with you, Artemis, I don't have a lot of experience setting up smart audio on. I'm going to have to give you your $5 back, Artemis. Artemis, email me and let's talk about this. I want to do my best to help you, but I'm going to have to do a little research because I haven't set up. I'm going to have to call Alex Vanover and get his advice. I haven't set up smart audio on a Revolt lately or ever. I know the Lua script is different, so we'll talk about that. Email me, Artemis. Argle Bargle, thank you for $5 Canadian. No question, just $5. Thank you. NOK, 20 NOK from Marley Lepo. Thank you. Tim Mack, $2. Overexposure zebra lines in my feed randomly. For real? You mean this? So you've got this happening, a zebra pattern. The zebra pattern on a camera is basically shows you where the camera is overexposed. Your FPV camera is doing this. Here's what I think is happening, Tim Mack. Many of these cameras, especially the cheap FPV cameras on micro quads, started life as backup cameras. If you have a Tiny Hawk, every so often you plug in your Tiny Hawk and you see backup lines on the Tiny Hawk, and it's because once upon a time the camera was a backup cam. My guess is that your camera is reliving a past life. I don't think there's a fix for it. It just power cycle it and hope it goes away or get a different camera. Yeah. Helikev1 gives $2 and says, what do you think of the Spectrum Focal V2 goggles? The Spectrum Focal V2 goggles, let's just pull that up here. Spectrum Focal V2 goggles. The Spectrum Focal V2 goggles are basically a Spectrum branded, is it an Attitude V4? I think it's a 640 by 40, 30-degree field of view. Yeah, so it's just a Spectrum branded Attitude V4. That's all it is. Except the Attitude V4 came with the OLED module, didn't it? This doesn't. Is it the Attitude V3? I'm not sure about that. It's basically just a Spectrum branded Attitude. The Attitude are okay budget goggles, but here's the thing. Well, for $300, is there a better $300 goggle you could get? I mean, I believe that's currently the only $300 Fat Shark goggle you can buy. But can you actually buy it? Is it actually still in stock anywhere? Because a lot of these things have been discontinued. Marked down to $300. You can buy it right now. Okay. Well, here's what I'll say about the Spectrum Focal Goggle. It's the only Fat Shark goggle you can get for $300 today. And in that respect, it's worth at least thinking about. The 640 by 480 resolution is not spectacular. The 32-degree field of view is not spectacular. And the module that it comes with is not spectacular. But it is a Fat Shark and it costs $300. I'd rather buy a used HD3 for $300. That's me. Big Data Pimp says you can get them at almost every hobby shop. Yeah, that's the thing. I wasn't sure because a lot of these products, sometimes they're discontinued, but you still see them all over the internet. The nice thing about the Spectrum Focal Goggle is that they are part of Horizon Hobbies distribution line, which means that you may be able to buy them at your local hobby shop when you just couldn't buy any other stuff there. Okay. Adam Hoskins says, serial pass-through sucks. Test hooks much easier. Oh, test hooks. You mean the little pinchy, clingy, spring-loaded things that hook on? Yeah. Let's go over to the Discord. Hello, Discord. These are my loyal patrons, and I come to them last. How dare I? How dare I? Randall Bob from Maui says, I have a 6-inch Hyperlight Glide. It's my first time with 6-inch. I notice I have a bit more jello and vibrations with my 5-inch rig. Is there a quick fix? The thing is, Randall Bob, the bigger your props go, the more jello and vibration you're going to get. That's a fact. And that's actually one of the reasons why people were so happy to go down to 5-inch props, because when we were all flying 8-inch, 9-inch quadcopters, tricopters, we had all these hoops we jumped through to do soft mounting of the GoPro and so forth to get the vibration out of the footage. It was a nightmare. We balanced our props. When was the last time you did that? So we go down to 5-inch props, and the props are smaller, lighter, and spin at a faster RPM. And as a result, you see less vibration and jello, and we all stopped balancing our props. But when you start going back up to bigger props, that comes back in. Now, 6-inch props, you should be able to get good quality 6-inch props that don't need a lot of work to balance them. There still could be issues with, your frame, etc. But the thing is, you're probably not going to get rid of jello and vibration with a PID tune. If you raise the throttle and the quad goes, okay, that's your P gain, okay? It's just somebody make a gif of that. But if just all the time there's just this vibration, then that's not your PIDs. It could be your filters. You might benefit from more filtering. In BL Heli Suite, you can change the motor PWM frequency to 48 kilohertz and then see if that helps. Sometimes changing the motor, the default is 24 kilohertz. Sometimes changing the motor PWM frequency, higher is not always better, but just move it all over the place, and from between 24 and 48, sometimes you can fix it. Definitely make sure the whole quad is tight. You may need to lower some of the filter cutoffs. These are some things you can do to try and fix those vibrations. But the first thing to do is to make sure that the quad is mechanically sound. Make sure that your motors are balanced, your props are balanced. Try different props. If you're running Dow Cyclones, try HQ props, try Gemfan props. Sometimes just switching props, suddenly it gets way, way better. Flange Monkey, got you. Tumbleweed, is there a reason to not go more than 8 channels on my Crossfire? Tumbleweed, I asked Trappy once upon a time, what's the difference in Crossfire between 8 and 12 channels? Because if there's no difference, why don't we all just run 12 channels? And he was very coy, and he was like, well, there's a difference, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. And I was like, maybe it's latency. 12 channels is more latency. And I said that out loud once, and somebody said, that's not it. So I don't know the answer, but I do know that when I asked Trappy, is there any reason not to just run 12 channels? He said yes. 8 channels is in some way higher performance, but no one will tell me what the actual reason is. Blob87 says, TBS Unify HV Race 2, set it to a certain frequency and it transmits on different frequencies. Power cycle and it's on another frequency. The first thing I would do, Blob87, is don't trust your goggles auto scan. Look at the LEDs on the Unify to see what channel it thinks it's on. Then manually set your goggles to that channel and see if you see the signal. I'm going to guess it's not actually transmitting on the wrong channels, but maybe you're just a little confused about, or your goggles are a little confused about what channel it's actually on. Let's see here. It's Me Brad wants to know about soldering, how to practice soldering. It's Me Brad, what you should do is you should go, let's see, yeah. So get yourself a set of this prototyping PCB board prototype kit, and you can practice soldering wires. There's some edge launch pins right here, or pads that you can solder to. You could just solder on this and practice on this, and that's a good start. It won't get you started on like big wires like 12 gauge for 14 gauge for your motor wires, but this is a thing that can get you started. Or just practice on something that's already burned out or broke. Lipper, did I skip you? Lipper says, did you skip me for a reason? No, just started in on Flange Monkey, and, you know, what Lipper says. Greetings from Australia, mate. I picked up one of the new TVS Tiny Whoop Nanos with Agent X. Can I flash Betaflight to it? I have no idea about that, Lipper. I saw you ask this question earlier, and I also didn't know the answer then. The TBS, what is the TBS Tiny Whoop Nano flight controller? Is it running Betaflight? I know that TBS has been working on their own flight control code, so I'm not actually sure if they're shipping this with their own flight control code on it or Betaflight. The bottom line is, I mean, either it's got Betaflight on it or it doesn't. Yeah. As far as getting RSSI to work, Lipper, what you need to do is you need to flash the XM Plus firmware with RSSI on channel 8 or channel 16. That's how you do it. If you're running F-port, then RSSI should be carried with the F port, but yeah. Alrighty. Let's go back. Hello, YouTube chat. I'm back. What's up? Let's look for questions here, comments here. Is the JBESC digital or analog? You mean current sensing, don't you, Josh Fisk? Josh Fisk wants to know if the JBESC is digital or analog. I'm going to guess that you're asking about current sensing. It is ESC telemetry. It's digital ESC telemetry, not analog current sensing. What's a good starter? BK Racer FPV wants to know what's a good starter drone and radio for a beginner. I think the Emax Tiny Hawk RTF is like, why am I not, first of all, why am I not here? When you search for this, why is my review not here? Screw this guy. Albert Kim's okay. No. Why am I not on above the fold? Hang on. How far do I have to go before I... Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm number 6. Okay. I guess I can see why Andy RC beat me. But Perth West Oz RC? Come on. I should be higher than that. I recommend the Emax Tiny Hawk RTF kit as a great starter. The Tiny Hawk will be fun for a long time, even after you graduate to 5 inches and above. The goggles, you'll outgrow quickly, but they'll be okay ride-along goggles. And the transmitter, you'll throw in the trash and never look at again once you get a QX7. But overall, it's a pretty good deal. Let's see here. Ooh, somebody in the chat, Wiccan FPV says if you do crossfire with 12 channels, it goes out of the pass band and is illegal. In other words, it widens the frequency. It doesn't... That's weird. I don't know if that's true, but Tornado Girl FPV asks, why can I not rearm after turtle mode? Tornado Girl FPV, I don't know why you can't rearm, but anytime you can't rearm, what you need to do is go into the Betaflight OSD tab, turn on the warning OSD element, and then when you try to arm, you'll get a status code on screen telling you why you can't arm. And once you know that status code, then you can begin to troubleshoot the issue. JB Photography wants to know. Hold on. JB Photography wants to know, how much soft mounting do you think is too much before it negatively affects performance? Are gummies on the FC enough with everything else hard mounted? Yes, JB Photography, almost all the builds I see have just gummies on the flight controller, and that's enough. If you go with gummies plus rubber standoffs plus soft mounted motors, you can actually get yourself in more trouble than you solve. Gummies by themselves are enough for almost all setups, especially if you're using 8 kilohertz sampling, not 32K sampling. Like, can you run R9 on a Spectrum just like Crossfire? Asks Dave Lasowski. Dave, I don't think so. And the reason I say that is that when you run Crossfire on a Spectrum radio, the Spectrum software has digital interface to the Crossfire module, and I don't think it supports that for R9. It would need software support for that. Now, you can always use PPM output into the module. I think the module might support, does it? I don't know that for sure. If the module supports PPM input, then you could use the BuddyBox function and hook it up to the R9. I'm not actually sure whether the R9 module would support. I think the answer to your question is no, Dave. The answer is no. Miguel Espinel, that's a very good question, Miguel. Miguel asks, watching some of Mr. Steele's videos, you can see how fast he goes, but how does he do that with low camera angle? Miguel, I have 2 theories about this, and by the way, I don't claim to know anything about Mr. Steele's setup, so if you really want to know, ask him and see if he answers you. But the guys who have ultra low camera angle but still manage to go fast, here's how I think they do it. Number 1, sometimes they have a really wide field of view camera. Like they have like a 1.8 or a 1.6 millimeter lens, which means that they can pitch forward a lot. Now, the GoPro will end up looking at the ground, but they can still get speed, right? The other thing that those guys will do is, and I noticed this first with Johnny FPV and his freestyle, he flies really low up tilt, but he seems to have a lot of speed. And then I noticed Willie does the same thing, and I started noticing these guys do it. These juicy style pilots who have very low up tilt will get speed, but never in a straight line, right? So they'll flick forward and they'll zoop and then they'll change direction, and they're moving fast, but they are always pitching and swirling, and so the fact that they have low up tilt doesn't matter because they're constantly moving the quad around. So that's my theory. If you want to go fast in a straight line, you have to have more up tilt. The physics don't change. The quad has to pitch forward to go fast. But if you pitch forward and then flick, right, now you carry that momentum, you see? Even after you pitch back, you're still cruising forward. And then if you keep flicking, you can keep carrying that momentum, and you can have speed even though you have low up tilt. Okay. Let's see here. Randall Bob in the Discord asks, this new F3 flight controller from TBS is equipped with hardware that's capable of reversing brushed motors, letting it do turtle mode. Most brushed tiny whoop style drones can't do turtle mode, but the TBS one can. It's the first brushed whoop style aircraft. I think you're quoting TBS here. The first brushed whoop style aircraft capable of turtling in any direction. It's running the newly released TBS Herald flight controller software is tuned. Yeah, so Randall Bob, if that whoop is running the TBS software, I don't think there's likely to be a Betaflight target for it. TBS certainly has no, I mean, they're developing their own software for a reason. I don't know if they have any motivation to make a Betaflight target for it, and I don't know if the Betaflight devs would even be able to make a Betaflight target for it. So the bottom line is you would need to look in your Betaflight configurator and see if there's a usable target for it. My guess is the answer is no. My drone dips to one side when I hit 0 throttle, says JB Edits. Please help. The answer to that question, JB Edits, is to turn on air mode. With air mode off, when you drop to 0 throttle, the drone loses almost all authority to hold its attitude. So when you turn on air mode and drop the throttle, it will hold its attitude. Turn on air mode. Brandon Young gives $2 in the super chat. Just says thanks for the videos. Thank you, Brandon. Christopher Dowling gives $5 and asks help getting MCU temp warning. MCU temp warning is, remember I said turn on the warning element in the OSD? The MCU temp warning is one of the warnings you can get. And it means that the temperature of the processor on your flight controller is too hot. A lot of them get hot if you just leave them sitting in the sun, and the answer is probably that you need to just spin the props and cool them down. I mean, the MCU temp, I don't think it like matters. I mean, it's just going to get hot. But if it's getting hot, maybe it needs more airflow. I mean, I think the answer is just don't plug in your battery and then set it down in the sun and leave it sitting until it overheats. Yeah. Jimmy FPV asks, is it normal to fail safe with GoPro Wi-Fi on? Jimmy, I run Wi-Fi on my GoPro 100% of the time. And if you don't, you should. And here's why. Because when you eject your GoPro into the tall grass and you think you're going to lose $500 forever, because Best Buy won't take it back if you ain't got it. You got the Wi-Fi on, you bring up your phone and you try and connect to the GoPro, and you just kind of like walk around the field like this, hitting connect, connect, connect. And eventually, if your Wi-Fi on your GoPro is on, you'll connect to it. You'll find it. And then there's a locate GoPro option in the GoPro app that you can cause the GoPro to start beeping, and then you find it. So I always run Wi-Fi on my GoPros to help me find them if I eject them. And I have never, ever had an issue with failsafe or anything like that. It just isn't an issue. And I mean, somewhere out there, there's someone who says every time I run my GoPro with Wi-Fi on, then I fail safe. I personally, everybody I know runs Wi-Fi on. It isn't an issue. Okay. Yeah, the thing is, DNB FPV, it does make your battery life shorter. But like, here's the thing. Once upon a time, I was flying in my yard. I had a new GoPro, and it ejected from the quad, and it was brand new GoPro, and I had forgotten to like associate it with my phone. And I was like, oh, I was just so mad at myself because I could not find it. And just a $300 GoPro session, gone. Brand new, out of the box, gone. So I always, and it doesn't always work, because sometimes under the best of conditions, the GoPro doesn't connect to your phone. But I always try and make sure it's connected to the phone so that if I lose it, I literally just walk around like this, hitting connect, 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 until I finally hit connect to it and can make it start beeping. Here's what I want. GoPro. You guys start a letter writing campaign to GoPro. Because what I really want is the GoPro has an accelerometer in it. So what I want is, if the GoPro detects a shock of more than, let's say, 5 Gs, 9 Gs, if it detects a shock and then it is stationary, it starts beeping. Do you see what I'm getting at here? When would a GoPro, you see, it needs to start beeping. You could turn it off if you want, but how many people lose their GoPro because even if you're not on a quad, if you're skiing or mountain biking and it falls off and it goes dunk, da, 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 and now it's in a crevasse somewhere, you're never going to find it again. It needs to detect that and start beeping, and it could do this. It just doesn't. It needs a letter writing campaign. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the problem, Sylvan. Because then you buy another GoPro. Why would GoPro want to add a feature that helps you stop losing GoPros? Okay. Alrighty. Caddx Ratel versus the Foxeer Falcor. That's tough, Harsha. Both the Ratel and the Falcor have very good looking image. The latency on the Falcor is a little higher, but not unacceptable. After I made the video about the Ratel, the comments filled up with people saying that the Ratel has reliability issues. A lot of people posted in the comments saying their Ratel died after the first crash. So I can't really... I try not to talk too much about anecdotes like that unless I'm really sure, but I have to acknowledge it. It may be that the Falcor is a more reliable choice. I really like the image from the Ratel, but personally, I just stick with the Eagle. It's one of the privileges of having your name on a camera is that they want you to keep using it. I like the Eagle. That's why I put my name on it. Yeah. The Rattel, I think I'd take the Rattel over the Falcor. But I might not if the Rattel just dies after every crash. Okay. Let's see what else we got. What's the best way? Aaron wants to know what's the best way to sell one of my quads. Aaron, if you go to, this is a common question. I should make a video about it. Let me just fix that real quick. See, this is why I really do live streams. Are we still streaming? Okay, good. This is why I really do live streams, because I just get ideas for videos I need to make. When you guys ask the same question 50 times, then I get ideas for videos to make. What you need to do is go to rcgroups.com. If you don't have an account there, then go ahead and make one. And also, how long have you been doing this if you don't have an account there already? Not very long. If you've been doing this for a long time, you have this account. If you then go to the classifieds, this is the single best place I've found to sell anything RC related, at least within the United States for sure. I don't know how much international penetration it's got, but if we just go to aircraft, electric, multi-rotor, I guess, you could sell it right here. I've sold some quads here with good results. That's where I recommend for selling quads. Let's see. Alex Dalton, please ask Scully if he punched a police horse in New Orleans. I will ask him that the next time I see him. No problem. No problem. Buddha XD gives $2 and asks how to map 6 modes to one switch. Funny that you ask that, Buddha XT, because I have a video about that. Buddha XD, here is my video about that. All modes, one channel. I'm going to just tag you in the chat, Buddha. Oh, gosh. There it is, Buddha XD. It's fairly complicated to actually ask. I mean, I can't even sum it up here in the chat, but that's how to do all modes on one channel. That's how I do it. Okay. Brandon Young, thanks for $2. Tech4 Yoda gives $3 and says, can you use any free UART TX pad for SmartPort? Tech4 Yoda, sorry it took me a while to get to your question. Well, anyway, you cannot. Tech4 Yoda, for SmartPort, you have to have inversion on the TX pad. If you have an F7 processor, this isn't an issue because they all have inversion. But if you have an F4, you must use a pad that has inversion. Typically, they will have a dedicated SmartPort pad that is the only one you can use. Tumbleweed30 says, tell GoPro, as long as you're doing a letter writing campaign to GoPro, tell them to bring back the session. Not going to happen. The session is dead. Here's the thing about the session. Who loves the session? Only FPV pilots. What has the session got going for it? It's 50 grams, 50 grams lighter than the Hero. No one but FPV pilots gives a damn about 50 extra grams. Not a mountain biker, not a snowboarder, not a race car driver. No one cares about the additional weight. And the session doesn't have a screen. Okay, but I like having a screen, says everyone else in the world. The only people in the world who loved the session are FPV pilots. And what do we do with them? We slam them into the ground at 70 miles an hour, and then we take them to Best Buy, and we get another one. You ask yourself, why did the session go out of business? That's why. It's not coming back. Let's see here. I can't find a lot of videos on picking props, says Owen Kuwaiti. I can't find a lot of videos on picking props. Owen, what I would suggest is that there's an old video on Rotor Riot, actually. Let me just show this to you. Way back when, the good old days of Rotor Riot. Yeah. Owen, why don't you start with this video about props from back in the day. I'm going to put that in the chat for you. And that is a video that gets you started. Basically, with props, there's two characteristics of a prop you need to think about. One is the diameter and one is the pitch. The diameter, of course, is how big around the prop is. And the pitch is how steep the pitch of the prop is. Props with bigger diameter and more pitch make more thrust, but they also draw more amps and maybe less responsive or handle less well. With any given quadcopter frame, you're probably going to be locked into a given prop size. So if you've got a frame that takes a 5-inch prop, you're going to be putting 5-inch props on it. At that point, the only thing you have to think about is the pitch. So don't even think about the diameter. Just pick a pitch that works for you. A lower pitch prop is going to make less thrust and draw fewer amps. A higher pitch prop is going to make more thrust and draw more amps. Sometimes a lot more amps. A good starter prop for a freestyle pilot would be like a 5x4.3. Almost any motor you've got is going to do fine on a 5x4.3. You're going to get good handling and long flight time. As you get into, as you get into higher pitch props, you're going to find the quad will go faster, but also your batteries will be unhappy. And maybe you'll get things like prop wash and so forth, bad handling, and the quad will be a little harder to tune. So that's a good place to start, is with like a 5x4.3 or a 5x4.5 prop. And if you're racing, maybe a little more aggressive. Depends on the weight of the quad also. Honestly, there's a lot of different things that go into it, come to think of it. Check that video out. Check that Rotorite video out. That's a good place to start. Let's see here. JB Edits, I think you've had several questions already, so let's let a few other people get a chance. Kebab, Roberto, you're right. Roberto FPV points out Kebab FPV does a lot of great prop reviews. If you check out Kebab FPV, how does he only have 31K subs, by the way? Kebab FPV, and tell me, his thumbnails are the best. Are his thumbnails not the best looking? They're just gorgeous. Is he secretly like a really good photo editor? Because like his thumbnails are amazing. I think it's because he lives down in Florida and he's just got all this great sun. I don't know. His thumbnails are great. But Kebab has some good videos about props as well. He does good prop reviews. And as you watch his prop reviews, like here's his review of the T-Motor 5147 just one day ago. Just start watching his prop reviews and see what he has to say. And it'll get you thinking about props the right way. Let's see here. No more super chats. Let's see. Snowbird FPV in the Discord wants to know, when traveling internationally, what are some of the do's and don'ts? Should I carry or check on baggage? Snowbird FPV, if you're traveling internationally with drones, do your research, because the different countries have very different policies. And unfortunately, I've heard stories about people who show up at a given country and they can't bring their drone stuff in. Or in Stingy's case, he went to Mexico and they let him in. So TSA said, yeah, these batteries, you can bring all these batteries. It's all good. When he got to TSA in Mexico coming home, TSA Mexico said, no, you can't get on the plane with those things. And he literally had to leave all his batteries behind. Never mind the fact that technically, according to the policy, he should have been able to bring them on. Just the guy he was talking to wouldn't let him on with the battery. So anytime you travel internationally, my suggestion is to check all your gear, but you cannot check lipos. You cannot nobody lets you put lipos in checked bags, because if a lipo lights on fire in the hold of the plane, it's a disaster. But if a lipo lights on fire in the cabin of the plane, it's bad, but it's not as bad. You see? So never check lipos. I think it'd be a good idea to check the rest of your gear internationally. But I've traveled to China with a bunch of gear, and it wasn't a problem. So talk to local guys if you can. Find out what the airline policy is. Print out the airline policy about lipos or tools and have it with you. It's a good thing. So let's see here. Yogi 2000 LL in the Discord says, when will you do an update video on where and how to download the newest Betaflight and BL Heli? New to the community of FPV. Yogi, I got to tell you, I did a Betaflight 4.0 video, but here's what I would say. My Betaflight 3.5 setup video, honestly, this one right here, Yogi, Betaflight 3.4 and 3.5 for total beginners. I got to tell you, it's still, everything in it is exact, because like it shows you how to download Betaflight. Yeah, well, here, I'll put that in the chat as well. It shows you how to download Betaflight. Oh gosh, that hasn't changed. And also in my BL Heli 32 100% explained video, part 1 shows how to install BL Heli. And there is how to get that and how to get started with that. So no need to make an updated video because the process is identical as today. So J Larson 42 says, gave my son-in-law the JB budget quad except for the stack. He got the Kakute F7, followed your vids, maidened it yesterday. So excited to be flying something he built. That's amazing. I'm really glad to hear that. That's very exciting. Alrighty. Here we are. Back in the YouTube chat. Come back around again. What do we got in the YouTube chat? Is it worth upgrading for 4.0 Betaflight? Doesn't seem like that big of a hit. Roberto FPV, Betaflight 4.0 has a lot of really amazing changes, but the defaults are so... Number one, the default PIDs and so forth, and just the feel of the quad on 4.0 is so different than it was on 3.5 that a lot of people are like, what is this? And they don't like it because it's so different. But the other thing is the default PIDs on 4.0 were making some people's quads fly away and some people smoked motors. So I think 4.0.2 has some changes that are supposed to make it a little bit more palatable. There are some really cool new features in 4.0. I've started covering some of them. Features like changeable OSD profiles, features like launch control with fixed angle. There's just so many interesting features in there. That being said, so far I haven't moved my primary quads from 357 because I still am figuring out 4.0 and it just feels so different that I'm not sure I want to jump and commit to it. Broke Mechanic FPV in the Discord. This is a question that's come up a couple times and I wonder if anybody in the chat has a suggestion. Broke Mechanic has 4 LED strips with 10 LEDs per strip. Betaflight supports only 32 LEDs. Is there some way you can take an LED strip and make it appear as only one addressable LED? You see what I'm getting at? So that they all light up the same color as if they were one LED, but really there's 10 of them. Anybody in the chat knows how to do that, post it in the chat. Yeah. Kaio says, loving my JBFC, but I recently crashed and a part of the board got nicked. My friend Shamu sent you a photo on Discord earlier. Do you know what that part of the board is? Kaio, I don't know what that exact component is, but the bottom line is if you crashed and something came off the board or cracked and then now the board doesn't work, it's time for a new board. And, you know, we try to take care of everybody who gets a board and, like, it doesn't work. But if you crashed it and you broke it, that's probably not a warranty issue. You could try it. You could try it. Now I'm out of water. Let's see here. Josh, what do you recommend to put multiple feeds on a TV for spectators? Asks Rick Cox. Rick, I tried to deal with this issue when I was doing receiver module testing. It ended up not being a great way to do it, but here is the answer, Rick. What am I looking for here? I gotta... yeah, this is the kind of thing you're looking for, Rick. You're looking for a security camera DVR. So these are kits. Let's try this. Yeah, so you're looking for something like this, Rick. 8-channel HD 4-in-1 analog DVR. And basically, this device, the DVR, records the feeds and it also puts them all up on screen at once. Now, sadly, this is actually a surprisingly good price. They were way more expensive than that when I was looking for them. So I kind of wonder if there's... Because one thing to look for is you have to get one that supports analog cameras. Some of them, and maybe that's why this one's so cheap, some of them only support internet-based IP-based cameras, and that obviously won't work with your receivers. But that's what all the guys like. That's what a lot of the guys do. Now, I was about to say that's what all the guys like Scully do, but actually I've seen Scully set up at Flight Fest, and Scully's actually using a PC with a capture card with it's got a single 8-way or maybe 2 4-way capture cards. That is a several $1,000s. So the capture cards alone are like $400. So that's not a solution that's going to work for most people. For most people, what you need is a high def capable analog DVR that can take your feeds in and display them on TV. It needs to be high def capable because it needs to output to a 1080 screen, even though the input is standard def. That's how they do it. Jackson Tuttle says you can write the LEDs in parallel. It will do what you want. It will just consider all the first LEDs as 0. And so, oh, Jackson Tuttle. Hey, broke mechanic, pay attention. So do you know how your LED strip has digital in and digital out? I think what this guy's saying is if you wire them in parallel to the digital in instead of daisy chaining them, then they will all show up as LEDs 1 through 10. Broke mechanic, that's your answer. Try that. Okay. Let's see here. How do I set up... McNuggan FPV gives $2 and asks, how do I set up VTX control in OSD TM25 switcher? I don't know what a TM25 switcher is, so let's try to figure that out first. What is a Foxy or TM25 switcher? Oh, it's a VTX, I see. How do I set up VTX control in the OSD? Well, let's look at the pinout here. Let's look at the pinout first. Power ground audio video. Okay, so I don't see a dedicated like smart audio pad. Does it have smart audio? No. It doesn't seem to indicate that it has. So you can't do that. It doesn't work. It doesn't support that, McNuggan. This VTX does not seem to support smart audio at all. So there's no way that you can control it with the Betaflight OSD. Sorry about that, dude. Sorry for the bad news. BK Racer FPV wants to know when I'm going to do a new build. BK Racer, currently the next things on my bench are I need to move my Chameleon TI electronics over to the Marmot frames to test the Marmot frame, and I got some work I need to do on my Beast class build to figure out why it's falling out of the air. So I don't, as far as a completely fresh build, I'm not sure. Those are the things that are currently on my bench. Christopher Dowling, thank you for $3. What's up with BLHeli32 and the RPM fix? Christopher Dowling, I believe that they think that they have a stable RPM filter firmware for BLHeli32. I do know some people had. My understanding is that the current beta release of the BLHeli32 RPM filter firmware basically is done, but the devs said, hey, until Betaflight 4.1 comes out, let's just call it a beta, since there's no rush. So I think that the BLHeli32 with RPM filter is safe to use, but you should always be very, very careful, especially when playing with pre-release ESC firmware, because some people have been injured, and that sucks. Don't do that. Simon Saucy, I see you at the Discord, dude. You don't have to... I got you. I got you. Simon Saucy says, my quad has smart audio. I don't know what UART it is. Can you help? I mean, Simon, the thing is, here, there's 2 ways to approach this, Simon. There's 2 ways to approach this, dude. One is, for real. Oh, I see the problem. Well, I'll just tell you. One way to approach this, Simon, is to just take one UART at a time and enable smart audio and see if you can just go into the VTX, the OSD menu, and see if it's there. The other way to approach it is just open it up and look at the wiring. What pad is the VTX wired to? If it's TX4, then that's UART 4. If it's TX3, then it's UART 3. That's the simplest way to handle it. Where does the term daisy chain come from? Asks Broke Mechanic. Daisy chain. Daisy chain. I have to be real careful about the picture I put up on screen, because there are some uses of the term daisy chain that are not family friendly. But the most basic form of a daisy chain is, hold on, a daisy chain. It is a chain of daisies. You take the flowers and you tie them together head to tail, and you end up with a daisy chain. See? Daisy chain. It means putting something together head to tail. Electrically speaking, it probably means in series with each other instead of in parallel. Yeah. So normally, if we look at these addressable LED strips, Broke Mechanic, the addressable LED strip will have like a DO and a DIN, right? Digital out, digital in. And those are one after the other in terms of their numbering. This will be LED 1, LED 2, etc. But I think what this commenter was suggesting, sorry, I've forgotten your name. What the commenter was suggesting is if you wire the DIN in parallel with each other, then all of those will be LED 1, and you'll be able to exceed that limit of Betaflight 30 to 32 limit. 32 LED limit. Let's see here. What's happening with the Beast? Dennis Lee wants to know what's happening with the Beast. So the Beast, I have some suggestions for when I flew the Beast. It fell out of the air, potentially due to an ESC issue. I have some suggestions for how to fix it. One of the things I need to do is I need to go back and add ground wires and twist the ground and the signal wires, which I roll my eyes because I never do that on my smaller quads. And when I was building the Beast, I said, we probably don't need to do this. And the very first thing they said to me when I told them I fell out of the sky was, did you run ground wires? Did you twist your signal wires with your ground wires? I was like, no. They're like, well, you should do that. So there are a couple other suggestions for things I should do to try and figure out why the Beast fell out of the air. The other thing is that in the crash, I damaged one of my motors. I thought I didn't damage the motors, but it turns out that the freaking shaft and the bell are fine. The base of the motor got bent. I might just try to fly it as it is. It's slightly non-parallel, but I may need to swap a motor as well. These freaking motors apparently have like triple ball bearings around the shaft. The shaft is fine. The base is fine. The bell is fine. It's just the base is a little bit tweaked, so that's unfortunate. I hope to be working on the Beast today. Not today, this week. I hope to be working on the Beast this week. So, Low-Key Camo asks, what do you mean twist your signal and ground wires? I mean, you have a signal wire and a signal ground, and you spiral them together really tightly, and that helps prevent noise from corrupting the signal. Nameless Droner says, I can arm the motors and they spin normal, but when I take off, the quad sounds funny, and when I land and close the throttle to 0, it bounces and shakes like it's not all the way at 0 throttle. Nameless Droner, when you land, disarm, dude. Disarm. Don't land and leave the motor idling. It's not a freaking helicopter. Disarm when you land. That's the answer. As far as the quad sounding funny, I don't know about that, Nameless Droner. It may be that you have a little bit too much noise. Maybe if you were to reduce your D gain a little bit, or maybe if you were to filter the quad a little more aggressively, it would fix that. But number one thing I would say is when you land, disarm. And then that won't be an issue. Solvend wants to know, my OSD disappears when I arm my new build. Is that a PAL or NTSC setting I messed up? No. Solvend, if your OSD disappears when you throttle up, what's happening is that there is excess electrical noise from the motors, and that is disrupting the sync pulses that the OSD uses to figure out when to draw the OSD. The answer to the problem is to solve the electrical noise. Adding capacitors can sometimes help. Making sure that the SMA connector of the video transmitter is not touching the carbon fiber can help. Change power, if your VTX and your camera are powered from a VBAT, move them to a regulator. That can help. It's kind of trial and error what's going to fix video noise. Those are some things you could do, though. Liam Grady says, I just got a Mobula 7. When I plug in a Betaflight, I get telemetry lost and recovered all the time. It works fine when it's not connected to Betaflight. You're not flying the quad with a USB plugged in, so probably I just wouldn't worry about it. If it works fine when it's not plugged into USB, then who cares? Does it matter? Problem solved. Oh, Argle Bargle points out, when I sit dead center in my chair, it gives me a beautiful flowing mullet. Oh, yeah. Technobabbler points out that as the data goes down the signal line, a bit is stripped off of every LED. So the LEDs on all 4 strips will be the same color in the same relative position. So yeah, that's a really, really good idea. Let me just make that a to-do as well. Just going to make this a video I need to make. To-do LED strips in parallel. Yeah. See, I got way more to-dos than I'm never going to make all these videos, but I got a lot of to-dos. Alexei Korotkov says, I always fly in standard PIDs. I got very sad that 400 is not replaced 3.1. The drone does not fly. Back on 3.1. 401 and 402 are specifically intended to fix people who had problems with 4.0. So I would give 401 or 402 a try. I can't guarantee 3.1 was a long time ago, so I can't guarantee anything. But I would, if 4.0 didn't work for you, I would try 402 and see if it works for you. Alep FPV wants to know, why is the Marmot better than the Reverb? Okay, I'll bite. The Reverb, first, let me just say, the Reverb is a great frame. The Reverb frame was designed in partnership with Final Glide. Final Glide, you know, remember him? No, I'm joking. I'm going to get an angry letter from his father if I don't say enough nice things about him. You think I'm joking. I'm not joking. His father is very protective of him and cares a lot about his success. If you mention... Anyway, I'm moving on. The Impulse RC Reverb is a great frame. It is more of a traditional design. It does have like thinner arms than the original Alien. It's sort of the successor to the Impulse RC Alien, but it's very much similar design to the Alien from the era of top plate, bottom plate arms, PDB, right? It reminds me a lot of the Johnny FPV frame, although it doesn't have quite the exact same design. So the Reverb is fine, but if you look at the Marmot is just a whole nother generation of frame, right? The way the front end, the metal front end, you can watch my review of the Marmot if you want to see what I really think about the Marmot. I've got a review of it up on my channel. It's just a whole nother generation of frame. They're just not the same at all. The Marmot, I think if you're suspicious that this space grade carbon will break too easily, a lot of people are saying, I think it breaks easier. Let's put it this way. They're saying they think it breaks easier than the regular carbon. Does it break too easy? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But if you're suspicious, just get the classic carbon fiber. The fundamental design of the Marmot is just amazing. So I would take the Marmot over the Reverb, just because the Marmot is just a generation ahead of the Reverb in terms of its development, its design. It's just a completely different type of quad. There you go. Prepare to get angry emails. Yeah, and Ion FPV, thank you for pointing that out. Ion FPV reminds me that Armatan, they may not even have a page up for it yet. They posted it on Facebook. The Armatan Badger is no, where is it? I'm not gonna be able to find it. The Badger is a Marmot with changeable arms. So now, like, no matter what you want, you're ready to go. What are my thoughts, Todd Sandman? What are my thoughts about the Holy Road Teco 32 F3 metal ESC? I talked earlier about why I don't think there's any point in F3 ESCs. If the ESC you like has an F3, go for it. But the F3 processor doesn't really matter. The metal FETs are nice. I've had 2 of the F3 metal ESCs in my quads, and one of them fried for no apparent reason, just flying in the middle of a field one day. It fell out of the sky and it was dead. One of the channels was dead. So my personal experience with them isn't spectacular. Maybe I just got unlucky. There you go. I know there's people out there running the Teco 32 and those Holy Bro ESCs and having good results with them. I could have just got unlucky, but to be honest, that was my experience with it. Jordan asks thoughts on the iFlight Sussex F7 with sensor fusion. That is this guy here, the iFlight Sussex F7. That is a really risky name to say in the middle of a live stream. The Sussex. Really? iFlight, why do you do this to me? For $43, it's an F7 with sensor fusion. In case you don't know, take a look at these gyros right here. Do you see how they're 90 degrees rotated to each other? Basically what that means is that you can do some fancy math and you can filter the gyros without ever having to, without the latency hit that you normally get when you do low pass filtering. I don't know a lot about this flight controller. I see that they've got a lot of pads on the top, you know, all the pads, the motor outputs broken out. Looks like it has 8 motor outputs. I'd be really curious what target this uses. What Betaflight target does this use? Can I see? Is there a way I can find out? Maybe the chat will tell me. Because I'm wonder whether this, the only other flight controller I know with sensor fusion is the SP Racing F7, I would be curious if iFlight was using the SP Racing F7 target. The SP Racing F3 was one of the first F3 flight controllers developed by Dominic Clifton, Mr. Clean Flight, and so many like terrible Chinese clone boards used the SP Racing F3 target, sort of piggybacked on his work, and hey, it's open source, cool, but then they sold themselves as SP Racing F3s and really gave the SP Racing F3 a bad name. So I would hate to see that happen again with his SP Racing F7 line. It uses, Jordan says it uses the XF722 dual target. Is that the same as the SP Racing F7, Jordan? That's what I want to know. Yeah. Low Tone 20 Hertz says, I have a 5-inch that spins one motor before I arm. After a power cycle, it's usually fine for a while. Why would the motor spin before arming? Usually what that means, Low Tone, is that the ESC is not receiving the motor signal accurately. So like if you're doing D-Shot 1200, but the ESC doesn't actually support it, that you can get twitchy motors. If you are running multi-shot or one-shot, make sure you've calibrated the ESCs correctly, but for D-Shot, there is no calibration. UAV Tech is in the chat. Hey, Mark, how you doing, man? UAV Tech points out that iFlight Sussex is using their own target. I'm glad to hear that because I like the idea of sensor fusion. I'm excited about the SP Racing F7 and the F7 Ultimate, but wow, they are expensive. The SP Racing H7 is like a €70 flight controller, and I'm like, ugh, I don't know about that. So being able to get sensor fusion out of a more inexpensive one certainly is appealing. Let's see here. Any quads and coffee vid from me? I don't know about that. I don't know what that is. What's quads and coffee? Oh, Mr. You're talking about quads and coffee in Orlando. I don't think I made a separate video from that. No. No. I always shoot video at these events, but then a lot of times at the end, I'm just like, what am I going to make from this? I can't always feel like I get good content from it. Matt Bowers, thank you for $2 in the super chat. Include telemetry in your twist. Yep. Michael Nasevsky, thanks for 5, I guess, Australian dollars. Thanks for your help the other day on Facebook. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Papa Joe says, thanks for all your help with my Mobile 7. Thanks for $2, Papa Joe. Hope we can figure out your OST, dude. I don't know what's going on with your stick commands. Mechanic Guy in the Discord asks, I've been into RC planes, even a few micro mini blade copters and quads. I have so many E-Flight products and a DX9. Recently got a DSMX trash can, then wanted a Tiny Hawk and a Hawk 5, which I got. They're Free Sky, along with a Camo X9D Plus SE. Would getting a multi-protocol module replace my DX9 completely? Yes. Mechanic Guy, a lot of people are going to argue that the DX9 is a better radio than the X9D in terms of its build quality and the gimbals, and I'm not going to touch that. You've got both radios. You can hold them in your hands and decide which one you like better. But the multi-protocol module will let you bind all of your Spectrum bind and flies to the X9D. That will do that. Delta X asks, I'm assembling my first quad. I have a single motor that won't spin up. All motors clear the initial 5 beeps. The other 3 motors respond to the motor stab, but motor 4 does not. Delta X, the first thing to do when you've got a motor that won't spin, I do agree, it is to pinch the motor in your hand and confirm that it's making the startup beeps. And you'll feel it. You got to pinch it because you can't tell which one's beeping when you're just listening. And it'll go doot, 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 doot. If it makes all 5 beeps, that means that the ESC sees motor signal from the flight controller. So it's like alive. But then if it won't spin, why won't it spin? The next thing to do is to swap the signal wire. Okay? So take the ESC that won't work and one of the ESCs that does work and swap their signal wires and see if the same ESC doesn't work, in which case the ESC is screwed up, or if the new ESC doesn't work, in which case it's the flight controller that's having an issue. That's how to start homing in on that. Let's see here. Any update on Orca goggles? Sean Hussein asks, any update on Orca goggles delivery date? Any expectations? Sean, I have not heard anything. Orca has been doing live streams. Let's see here. And I thought I heard a date mentioned. Let's see if I can find them. Orca FPV. Let's see if they have anything to say on their webpage. I thought I heard somebody talking about a date, but then I went looking and couldn't find one. I'm not going to go start watching videos. So I think the answer is no specific date right now. Yeah. I don't know. I guess the answer is I haven't heard anything. MC's Creations wants to know, when will you Jose Verdusco wants to know when me and Rotor Riot will be venturing up north to Wisconsin for quad camp. We're not doing as many quad camps as we were. The short version is that because they weren't consistently making money. And as much as we love doing them, we don't want to go out of business doing them. The best way to get us to come to your area to do a quad camp is to partner with a local hobby shop to help sponsor the event. The hobby shop sells stuff over the weekend. They make money. Then they provide space for the event, which means we don't have to rent anything, and everybody is happy. Just randomly showing up in a city to do a quad camp is probably not very likely. That was not a winning strategy in a lot of cases. There were some great cities that sold well, and there were other cities where the people were awesome, but we didn't make enough money to cover the expenses. So, yeah. How can I get, Corey FPV is asking, how can I get rid of prop flutter on flight 1? Lower the D gain or lower the P gain? Corey, if you're getting prop flutter, it means that the motor is spinning at too high of an RPM for the prop. You have a soft prop and a too high KV motor. PID tuning will not fix prop flutter. If we're talking about the same thing, it won't fix prop flutter. Prop flutter is like when you go to high throttle and the prop goes, I apologize to everyone's ears. That's prop flutter. Prop deflection. The only fix for that is to use a stiffer prop. Use a lower pitch prop, use a stiffer prop, or don't go to full throttle. Yeah. A Vandal FPV is having brownout issues or death roll problems with almost every quad. Vandal FPV, the first thing I would want to do is find out whether you are really having like brownouts. Do you see the Betaflight splash screen in your goggles? That means the flight controller power cycled. Do you see the RunCam logo show up? That means your camera power cycled. Do the ESCs, you listen to the GoPro footage, does the ESC go doo-doo-doot? That means the ESC lost power. Well, I'd first want to figure out if you truly are browning out or if something else is going on. That's where I would go with that. Tumbleweed points out there's an interview that the FPV nerd did with Orca. We won't stream the whole thing, but is this FPV news? Yeah, this is. I love this guy. Look at this guy's channel. I love his format. I'm not going to stream his content, but he just green screens and he talks about FPV in front of a green screen. He interviewed the Orca guys and they talked about their plans. I'll paste this in the chat if anybody wants to try to check that out. Sorry, Infernocron. My prop imitation sound scared his 3-year-old. Sorry about that, dude. Yeah, Argle Bargle, if it's every single quad, you probably should be looking at the transmitter, not the quads. That's a good point. Very basic troubleshooting. Can we talk about like process of elimination? This is a very, very basic troubleshooting technique, and yet a lot of people, maybe they overlook it or they kind of poke at it but don't really dive in fully. Process of elimination means that you start swapping things and it lets you see where the problem is. The most basic place to do process of elimination is, I'm getting fail-safes and my quad's falling out of the sky. Well, is it one quad or is it all your quads? Because if it's one quad, then it's probably the receiver or the flight controller in that quad. But if it's all your quads, then it's probably your transmitter. Very basic troubleshooting technique. I've got a motor. The quad death rolls, and I think the motor's bad. Okay, swap the motor. No? Still death rolls? Swap the ESC. Still death rolls? Move the signal wire from one signal pad to another and test them. And you see that we're working our way up the chain, changing one thing at a time. Bad video reception. Well, does your friend have good video while you have bad video? Then it's probably your goggles, because the video transmitter is the same. Do you see your friend's quad just fine, but your quad, both of you have bad signal? Well, then it's probably your quad. This really basic troubleshooting technique is so powerful, and I find myself explaining this to people all day. And sometimes it's, the motor, sometimes it's the video transmitter. It all boils down to the exact same troubleshooting technique, and everybody should really internalize this. There you go. Luis Valenzuela, you got telemetry working, but you couldn't get Lewis grips to work. Luis, if telemetry is working? First of all, Luis, make sure that you are seeing all of the telemetry sensors. If you got telemetry working, but all you're seeing is RSSI, telemetry is not fully working. You need that RSSI sensor is coming from the receiver, and you need the sensor to be you need to be talking to the flight controller. Yeah. So make sure you have all the telemetry sensors. Like in Betaflight and FreeSky, the telemetry sensor VFAS, that comes from the flight controller. If you see the VFAS sensor, your telemetry is working. But if all you see is RSSI, telemetry is actually not fully working. So let's see here. Have I seen the new open source simulator with full Betaflight built in? You can supposedly test every single Betaflight setting in the simulator. Thoughts on that? Here's the thing, guys. So let's say you've got this simulator and it lets you, I'm going to pick on Liftoff. Liftoff Simulator, I love Liftoff Simulator. It's got the Betaflight PIDs tab in it, and it emulates a PID controller. But here's the thing. The emulation of the PIDs is only so accurate. It's only so accurate it can be. So you raise the P gain, and at some point, every time you raise the throttle, the quad goes as if it's oscillating. It's not actually simulating what PIDs do. So if there's this open source simulator that emulates all the Betaflight settings, it would have to be the best simulator in the world for that to even begin to be meaningful. The simulator would have to kind of be perfect. Otherwise, its simulation of what the Betaflight features do wouldn't be useful because it wouldn't accurately represent what Betaflight actually does. So it's cute, but I think it's unlikely that the simulator is accurate enough to make that actually meaningful. There we go. How did Liftoff build your map, asks Mark R. Did they come to your house or what? Mark is referring to the fact that the Liftoff simulator has my property in it. The way that happened was I decided that it would be fun to have my house in a simulator. And then I looked at all the simulators out there and I asked myself, who seems to have a good track record of building real-world environments? And the Liftoff simulator has the Hanover track, which is actually a recreation of the CES, the CeBIT. Is it CeBIT? I think it's CeBIT. It's the Hanover Convention Center where they have CeBIT. And I thought, well, that's pretty good. So I reached out to them and said, do you guys want to do this? And they said, sure. And then I sent them reference videos where I walked around the property and took pictures of the house, of just took video of a whole bunch of things as I walked around so they could get the little details right. They took the major topographical stuff from a topo map that's just publicly available, and then I helped them refine it by I was like, okay, this wall is 8 feet high, the side of the house is so forth. They actually were really happy that I had some 50-gallon water jugs and some pallets around my property, and they were like, we use those for scale references. So, and then they just did it all by hand, to be honest with you. They just did most of the work by hand. They never visited the property, though. It was all just based on video and photo reference and a little bit of publicly available info, like the topo maps. But I asked them when I was out there, I was like, these are just the topo maps. So all the work's already done for you. And they're like, no, it takes so much tweaking. So that's how it happened. Let's see here. Thank you. If Xander1 gave $20 in the super chat, just on a gift for my family. Thank you. Thank you, Xander. Well, that's a big donation. Toolmaker Dave gives $2. Thank you. Rick says it would work. Simulator would work if a sim emulated a flight controller, CPU, and ESC. I disagree, Rick, because in order to make the simulator accurate, it has to emulate the physics. It has to emulate these really complicated turbulent airflow drag model. What quadcopters experience is very, very hard to emulate accurately. Propellers is very hard to emulate accurately, never mind in real time. That's why sims can only be so good. Landon Kramer asks how to fix a quad flying bumpy or shaky when flying in a straight line. Landon Kramer, the first thing I would do is check that your FPV camera is secure. If you see the shaking only in the DVR or the goggles, but not in the GoPro, then it's your FPV camera. And this can actually happen with a loose lens element inside the camera or a loose board inside the camera. So just because the camera case is secure doesn't mean that the camera's... So first, check your FPV camera and make sure it's secure. Then what you're going to do is you're going to want to look for things that could cause vibration or noise to be getting to the flight controller. So definitely check to make sure all your motors are, if you've got a damaged motor or an off-center motor, definitely you're going to need to fix that. Soft mount the flight controller. You may need to dig into black box to start looking for where that noise is. But usually what you're describing is something mechanical. It may even be a broken frame or a broken standoff or loose screw on the frame. You may end up replacing a bottom plate on your frame or something to fix it. These are all, it's kind of, I wish there was a simple answer for that, but there isn't. There's a lot of things that can cause that, and it's just a slow process of elimination to remove them all. Rick says, I thought you said DRL physics did all that. Well, hang on, Rick. Rick, what DRL physics has done is measure the movements of a quad in a motion capture studio, and then check their physics model to see how closely it matches that. And that is ultimately that's going to produce a good result. But at the end of the day, that's different than saying I'm going to increase P gain and that's going to have this effect on the feel. You see? What they're doing is they're making their software cause the simulated quad to move in the same way, but it doesn't mean that their simulation of the underlying physics is 100% complete or accurate. It's harder to emulate the effect of P gain or D gain than it is to emulate the cumulative effect of the PID controller as a whole. Thank you, Jose Verduzco. $50. Wow, $50 is an incredible donation. Thank you, Jose. No question, just a donation. Thank you, sir. That's a big donation. Thank you. There is Dark Diver 82 points out there's modified firmware for FreeSky transmitters which only has 9 milliseconds latency. What do you think about it? I know I think you're talking about the ER9X firmware. Let's see here. What do we got? This is new for me. Set RF channels to 8 for, yeah. Now that's not modified firmware. That's just changing the channel range to 1 to 8, which reduces latency. I definitely do that on all my models. But actually, there's another latency setting. I thought you were talking about something else. No. That's not a modified firmware, though. That's just that's a standard thing you can do in any OpenTX transmitter. If you're running FreeSky D16 mode, definitely set the channels to 1 to 8, and that significantly reduces latency. Yeah, totally. That's a fact. That's for real. Now, Dark Diver, what are you pointing out? Dark Divers, yeah. I don't know anything about this, dude. Yeah, interesting. Well, if Michael Keller is working on it, Michael Keller is a Betaflight dev, and he's legit. So if he's working on it, then I'm excited. I do know there are opportunities for latency improvements in OpenTX. ER9X is another open source firmware that will run on like the X9D radio. And it has some latency improvements. The OpenTX devs have rejected those for reasons I'm not 100% sure why. And I'm hoping that one of the things that we can get from Jumper. So Jumper has kind of been rejected by the OpenTX devs, and Jumper is developing its own fork of OpenTX. And I'm hoping that opens the door to some of these improvements getting rolled in. That would be really exciting if it were the case. Current says, my Tyrannus is constantly losing RSSI when it's right next to my quad on the bench. That's because they're too close together. What happens is that the transmitter overwhelms the front-end amplifier on the receiver, and it just flips out. It's normal for that to happen when they're very close together. The answer is just don't put them within like 18 inches of each other, and you'll be fine. Nothing is wrong, Current. That just happens. FPV Arborist, any sims you recommend that no internet is needed to play? I mean, you have to have the internet to download them, right? FPV Arborist. I mean, FPV Freerider is free and doesn't need internet to play. You don't need internet to play like Liftoff on Steam. You can play it in offline mode. DRL sim is the same way. You're going to need internet to download them, but other than that, you can play all of them in offline mode. Yeah, they don't require internet. Let's see here. Why? But why? Why do we just post the link to a Twitch channel? Is that what we're doing? Is that what we're doing? We're just posting your Twitch channel address? No, that's not going to happen. I thought maybe there was a chance this Twitch channel was actually relevant to the conversation, but just a dude posting his Twitch URL in the chat, so we're not going to do that. Let's see here. I don't know anything about that. I don't have telemetry on my QX7 after updating to 222. Any idea why this could be? Well, Mark, I don't know, but I don't know about that, Mark. I mean, it's got to be something that you may need to rediscover sensors. If you copied your models when you went from whatever to 222, you may need to rediscover your models or your sensors. So go into the telemetry screen, delete all your sensors, and then do discover new sensors. That's what I would do. Steve Maslick in the chat. Thank you, Steve, moderating. Steve is talking about something called PIM sparse dense mode. I have no idea what that is, but there you go. How am I liking the T16? Jay Maurer asks, how am I liking the T16 now that I've had it for a little bit? I still like the T16, Jay Maurer, but I'm not saying too many good things about it because I want better gimbals and I want a built-in multi-protocol module. And I'm worried that if I say too many good things about the T16, then Jumper will go, yeah, we got it. We got this. So I like the T16, but I want them to make it better. And so I'm holding off saying too many good things about it. But so far, I'm liking it. Jesse Smith wants to know how to set bind on a switch on Tyrannus. Cannot be done, Jesse Smith. I actually asked the OpenTX devs years ago to make bind as a special function so I could bind without having to go in the menu. And they said that they didn't think that was safe. This was years ago before I had a YouTube channel. They said they didn't feel like that was safe to be able to just flip a switch and bind. You cannot. You have to go in the menu to bind your transmitter. Baroque Mechanic has an RSSI that reads 35 all the time in the OSD. Baroque Mechanic, you got two different problems here. If your Tyrannus is telling you that your RSSI is critical, then it means that your RSSI telemetry sensor is reading 35. If your Betaflight OSD is reading 35, that could mean your Betaflight OSD is misconfigured. So the first thing I would do is go into the Tyrannus telemetry screen and look at the RSSI sensor and see if it actually says 35. And if it does, then your transmitter or your receiver is screwed up. That's the answer. Morg59 wants to know, is it possible to move the multi-protocol module internal on the Jumper T16? The hardware inside most likely would support it. Here's what I know, Morg. Right now, the multi-protocol module is external, and the reason for that is that OpenTX already supports external multi-protocol modules with no modification. So basically, Jumper is just, they just wanted to get to market with it. I'm sure that the hardware and software could support it, and I know from LiveU FPV's teardown of the T16 that there is a spot on the inside exactly the right size for the module. So I think that Jumper is going to do an internal multi-protocol module, which I'd be so happy because I could have FlySky, FreeSky, Spectrum, Crossfire all in one radio. Wow, wouldn't that be great? So I think they're planning to do that, but it's going to be some development effort to actually mod the code. There you go. What are the two quads on the bench, Simon Saucy? One of them is the Smooth Operator, one is the Chameleon. I don't have it handy. Well, anyway. Yeah. Thoughts on Real Steady Go, Landon Kramer. Let me show you guys. This is pretty. I'm glad you asked that, Landon. This is Real Steady Go. Now, you may know about Real Steady, which is software to stabilize drone shots. It is pretty incredible. It can make your drone shots look pretty amazing. But here's the problem. Real Steady is like a $400 plugin to After Effects, which is also pretty expensive. So most people cannot afford to use Real Steady. They've released Real Steady Go, which is a new piece of software that only works on GoPro footage. And it actually, very clever, uses the gyro data. GoPro records gyro data from the sensor in the GoPro. And it uses that gyro data to stabilize the video, which if you think about it, is pretty freaking clever. Normally, the way Real Steady works is it analyzes the footage to try to see what the camera's movement was. That's hard. Real Steady Go just takes the gyro data that GoPro puts in there and goes, oh, the camera tilted up, down, left, right, up, down, and just stabilizes the image that way. So, and here's the thing. Real Steady Go is only $100, which is still expensive, but within the reach of a lot of people who couldn't afford After Effects. Let's watch a little demo of real. Sorry about the volume there, guys. So it's a desktop app, which is pretty freaking cool. You don't need After Effects. It just runs on your desktop. Anyway. So that's Real Steady Go. $100 you can get Real Steady for your GoPro footage. Pretty slick. Pretty slick. Steve, somebody's having some trouble with the Discord and Patreon. Discord Patreon integration. Just message me on Patreon and I'll help you get that sorted out. We don't need to do that on the live stream. Let's see. Have I seen the Foxier Box 2 yet? All Day Air asks. I have not. I've only seen the same stuff you guys have seen, which is like Oscar Leong's preview of the Box 2. It looks pretty good. The video quality looks pretty good. I would love to see it myself. I probably will get it after it comes out. I don't usually get pre-release stuff like that. One reason I'd like to tell you guys the reason that vendors don't send me pre-release stuff is because I'm honest. They only send stuff to guys like Oscar Leong who just, but that's not true. The real reason is that when they send me stuff, I put it on a shelf. 3 months later, I forget that I had it. I don't really care. So then like this new product comes out and people are like, what do you think of it? And I'm like, I don't know. They didn't send it to me. But it's hard for me to get too offended because when they do send me stuff, I ignore it for months. And they're like, well, didn't you want to test it out? We sent you a pre-release product. And I'm like, I do, but I'm so busy right now. So then I try not to get too offended when they don't send me things. It is not the exact same size as a Session All Day Air. It's larger than a Session. It does not fit. How did Bach Grinder get the Box 2? Are you for real? Bach Grinder got a Box 2? Okay, now I'm insulted. Now I'm insulted. He's not even a real reviewer. No offense, Bach Grinder. He's a streamer. Bach Grinder's a streamer. I've seen some of his reviews. They're entertaining. No, now I'm starting shit. Now it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Okay. Apparently TBS has a new Fat Shark module. TBS has a new Fat Shark module. Oh, this is what I needed. TBS has okay. TBS Fusion. Are you? No. This isn't real, is it? It's not $700, is it? That's not possible. This is a joke, right? $700. That's not real. No data pricing yet. Okay, thank you. That's just a placeholder price. Combining images like Clearview, Crossfire built-in magic. Oh. So here's the thing about that. As Troop Furious FPV is learning, and as, frankly, Clearview learned, it's freaking hard to make a Fat Shark module that does this well. The Clearview ground station was amazing. For a long time, it was the only thing that did sync reconstruction and signal picture combining. And Clearview tried to make a module, and the performance of the module was not up to snuff. They had a lot of delays and a lot of manufacturing challenges. RapidFire. The first versions of RapidFire had problems. Firmware had problems. They even had some manufacturing problems. So this TBS module is going to come out, and it's going to be a RapidFire Clearview competitor. Oh, and TrueDX. TrueDX, pretty good. Not as good as RapidFire. Will it get there? Maybe. I would say that this TBS module, when it first comes out, be real careful about being the first one in line to buy it, because traditionally this is very hard to do well, and the first versions usually have problems. That's what I would say. Johnny Ice wants to know, well, Johnny, thank you for asking there, buddy. With your affiliate links, do you still get kickback if I go to Amazon app after clicking your link? Yeah, Johnny Ice, if you go to my webpage or any of my, if you go to my webpage, for example, here, and you click any of my affiliate links, I swear Johnny really did ask this question. You click any of my affiliate links, either on my webpage or in the bottom of one of my videos, anything you buy, can't buy an actual Porsche on Amazon, really. There we go. Anything you buy after that, I get a commission on. So, yeah, there you go. Thanks for asking. Can I have the link for the FlySky RSSI firmware, please? Oh, the FlySky. I don't have that. Check the TBS couch. It's up there. Trappy and Wayne Ho did it. Yeah, Freshly Fried. I believe that the product exists. I believe that TBS is going to release the product. The question is, will the product perform better than the competition? And no one can know that until it actually gets tested. And I will test it, and then I will tell the truth, and then Trappy will complain about my results. That's the circle of life. That's the way it goes. I tested a bunch of antennas years ago, including the Pagoda and the TBS Triumph. He didn't like how I did the testing. He pitched a fit, and he asked me to please not review any TBS equipment ever again. And I said, "Are you serious? Is this real life?" No, of course I'm going to keep reviewing and testing TBS equipment. Of course. And then the same thing happened when I tested the Unify output power. To his credit, he was right that my measurement of the Unify's output power was not accurate. It wasn't, I don't think it was what he said it was either, but it was pretty close. It was pretty close. And mine was way off. So he was right. So that's 50-50 for him. So every time I review a product, like when this TBS module comes out and I do the range testing on it, if it's not just the best thing ever, then he's gonna lose his mind, and we're gonna have a long, respectful conversation where he says, "Please stop talking about my products," and I'll say that's not gonna happen, and then life will go on. Yeah, Freshly Fried. The image looks amazing and clear. They are using they're not using a production sample. They're using a hand-tuned engineering. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen the video. But the thing is, a manufacturer shows you a pre-release product. Do you think they're going to show you the shittiest one that they just grabbed out of a bin? No. They're going to show you the best one. It's hand-tuned. It's hand-soldered, tuned by engineers in the best possible light. And, of course, it's amazing. Obviously. Then it goes to production. And some, probably Chinese, that's not racist, that's just a fact, some Chinese guy making $1 an hour solders it up. I don't know how exactly, but then you get production. And the problem is that between prototype and production, a lot can go wrong. It's a lot easier to make one good board than to make 500 or 1,000. And there's going to be variance. In production, there's going to be variance. Some of them that come off the line are going to be very good. Some are going to be not as good. And that's the kind of thing that you don't get when the manufacturer live streams and shows you their new product, and it's amazing. Of course it's amazing. If it wasn't amazing on their live stream, then just fuck them, right? Pardon, I'm sorry. I apologize to parents who have kids watching. If any manufacturer shows you a new product that's coming soon and it's not freaking amazing, then just forget it even exists because it's terrible, right? Of course it's amazing when they show it to you. I'm thinking about this. Because, like, I've talked to Tony Cake from Immersion RC about the steps that Immersion RC goes through to try to get good quality product into your hands. And Tony has a background in test and quality control that a lot of other companies simply don't have anyone in that position. They just, and I mean, I'll pick on myself. The quality control for the JB flight controller is not at the same level as it would be if Immersion RC manufactures. So Airbot makes it. And Airbot is good at design and they're okay at manufacturing, but every so often there's a foobar and a product hits the market and it's just effed up and dies, you know. And the great thing is that by taking that approach, you get an inexpensive product that most people have a good experience with, and then you just have a really generous return policy, exchange policy, where if somebody comes to you and says, yeah, it died, you just give them another one. And most people are happy with that arrangement. But the flip side is a company like Immersion RC, they burn in every single tramp in a hot box for, 12 hours before they send it out. They have quality control testing on all the rapid fire modules that go out. And if the module is not meeting specs in terms of sensitivity and so forth, they don't send it out. They bin it. They get rid of it. That's something that not all companies do. And that's the reason I've got onto this train is because a company shows a prototype. Furious FPV did this with the True DX. They show a prototype and the product looks amazing. And you go, wow, this is the new best thing ever. And my point is there is a vast chasm between the best prototype you can possibly build and 1,000 products sitting in a warehouse shelf that customers are going to buy. And until you get to that point and products are actually in customers' hands that have been built on an assembly line, you don't know a damn thing about how good the product is going to be. That's my point. Okay. Alrighty. No, little. I don't know where. There you go. We'll cut that one out. Is UAV Futures in the chat? Wow, where's UAV Futures? Is he here? Somebody's talking to UAV Futures. Sorry, Flyboy Vaughn. I swear. Well, if you meet me in real life, I swear a lot more than I do on my channel. But occasionally I swear on my channel. UAV Futures, check this out. UAV Futures is now a moderator here. Mostly just so his name shows up in red so I know when he's here. What's up, buddy? Hey, man. You want to play some Apex later? Yeah. Drone Icaria. Here's my t-shirt. FPV is not a crime. Got it from Quadbox. If you have a Quadbox subscription, you can get this shirt. Yeah, I try to be family friendly. I do try to be family friendly because I do know a lot of kids are in this hobby. Although I'm an adult and I often, speak with an adult affect. There are a lot of kids in the hobby, and I really means a lot to me when parents say they let their kids watch my channel and don't really censor it. So I try not to swear unless I really mean it. Mark FPV wants to know about the iFlight Cinebee. I am passing on the iFlight Cinebee. I'll tell you why. I tested the... Where's the iFlight Cinebee? There it is. I tested the Tiny Leader HD, and it did not... The short version is that it didn't fly very well, and I thought it was kind of heavy. I had some other problems with it. The iFlight, oh, pardon me. Sorry, guys. I apologize. The iFlight Cinebee looks very, very similar in design to the Tiny Leader HD. In fact, I mean, are they the same? Somebody tell me if I'm crazy here. Do they? They're not identical. No, they're not. They're not identical. I take it back. It looks very similar in terms of how I could be wrong. I don't know. I didn't think much of the Tiny Leader HD, and so when I look at the iFlight Cinebee, it looks very similar, and I'm kind of like, what's it weigh? I don't know. Maybe I should give it a fair chance. 66 grams. What's a Tiny Leader HD? 53 grams. It's even heavier. Is that with battery? That's not... Oh my god, it's even heavier. What motors? 1103 motors. Motor 1103. No, see, the iFlight Cinebee is even heavier. And the thing is, and it's got the same motors. And the thing is, when I got the Tiny Leader HD and it seemed underpowered. I thought, well, it's a Cinebee, so it's supposed to be cinematic, not acrobatic. So I tried to fly the Tiny Leader slow and smooth, and it wasn't really good at that either. So I was just like, all right, forget this. Maybe the Cinebee will be awesome, but I probably am not going to go out of my way to review it. So. Tony Allison, let's clear up some super chats. There's one more super chat. BK Racer FPV gave $2 and said, "You're blowing my mind." Thanks, BK Racer. Tony Allison gives $5 and says, "Do you know of a source for an adapter mount for the JB Micro Eagle in the Marmot?" Yes. So in the Marmot, it's sized for a mini cam. You can kind of just bend the arms in, or you can use a couple of little tiny M2 washers to sort of space it out. But what you can also do is you can go, Tony Allison, you can go to Brain, where is it? There it is. You can go to Brain 3D if you're in the US. I guess they'll ship anywhere. They make this, which is an Armatan Marmot micro camera mount, which is a micro adapter. And the key thing that this does is it pushes the camera forward so that you don't see the cage in view. That's what I'd recommend, Tony Allison. I'll throw you a link to this here in the chat. Ethan Mitchell wants to know anything new on the horizon from Fat Shark. I've heard rumors. They're just rumors. They're not even from Fat Shark. This is not a leak. This is just like somebody mentioned, oh, I think Fat Shark's going to drop something in the fall. There's the tiniest bit of rumors, but other than that, I don't know. The thing is, Grayson Hobby, I found about this yesterday in the live stream. Grayson Hobby released a video saying that they tried to order more Fat Shark HD3s, and Fat Shark told them they were discontinued, end of life. So if it's true, I mean, presumably Grayson Hobby is right. If the HD3 is end of life, that leaves only the HDO in Fat Shark's lineup. And as a goggle, they've also got the Recon, of course. And it's hard to believe that Fat Shark would just leave just the HDO at the $500 price point and not have anything at like the $400 or the $350 price point. So if they, and here's the thing, Night Train FPV suggests an HDO update. But the thing is, the HDOs just came out like a little more than a year ago. So if they don't have any goggle below $500 other than the Recon, and they release a new goggle, which is more likely? That it's an update to the HDO, or that it's like a $400 goggle to replace the HD3? To my mind, it seems like if I were Fat Shark, I'd want something in that lower price point, but I'm not looking at their finances. XZLR8N, I think the Transformer is discontinued. Can we find the Transformer in stock anywhere? There's a Phaser FPV plug again. Every time I switch to this scene, it jumps tabs on my. So, is the Transformer? Oh, my bad. That's not what I meant to do. Is the Transformer actually in stock anywhere? Let's see if we can find it. I mean, just because it's in stock doesn't mean they still make it. No, see? Out of stock. This one is prime shipping and in stock, but it's Amazon, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything. Amazon has this. So somebody on Amazon has it. Ready-made RC. Refurb, only 6 left. Binocular viewer, only 4 left. Yeah. No, I think my gut feel in stock alert. No, see, my gut feeling is the Transformers discontinued. I could just ask Fat Shark and they'd probably tell me, but I think it's dead. Yeah, Ethan Mitchell, it seems odd to me that Fat Shark would abandon the $300 to $400 price range. That's a very different, I mean, maybe they're just like, all right, screw it. We're just going to be premium product and that's it. Maybe. I mean, it's possible. But if they're going to, it seems like just abandoning that to so many other competitors who they could trounce. I would be a strange. It would be a strange choice. Anyway. All right, guys. Well, we are caught up on the super chats. Tumbleweed 30 has an interesting picture. Let's take a look here. This is how Tumbleweed 30 does his micro in a Marmot frame. This is this bracket that comes with all our cameras that we never use, and he just super glued some washers on the inside. Very clever. Very clever. Good thought. Let's get back there. Terminal LCPL, there is no way really that you can verify that I'm getting the Amazon commission. All you do is just click that link. Every time you click that link, it refreshes my cookie on your browser. And then after, I think with Amazon, it's 24 hours, but sometimes it's longer, it times out. So you basically just got to click the link before you do the shopping. There's no way for you to know who you're sponsoring, I don't think. No, there's no way to know. Let's see. All right, guys. I think that's going to bring us to the end of the live stream. I am going to wrap up for the evening. Thank you guys for hanging out with me for 2 hours, asking questions and answering them. It's a really enjoyable part of my job is to get to actually just interact with you guys one-on-one and find out what you're wondering about, what kind of products. This is really, I mostly started doing these live streams regularly. And by the way, I'm doing them Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern, Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern. I started doing these regularly mostly so I could have a couple days a week where I didn't have to edit a video because you don't have to edit live streams, but it's actually been really rewarding in so many other ways. So I really appreciate it. Yeah, already MC's Creations has been 2 hours, dude. It's been 2 hours at 10 p.m. I want to take a second and remind you guys, in case you didn't already know it, that this is my full-time job. And if you value the content I make and the time we spend together, check out the video description. You can join my Patreon. How are you supposed to say it? You can join my Patreon for as little as $2 a month, and you get access to my Discord server. That's about all you get. I answer everybody's questions for free, but if you feel like you get $2 a month or more of value out of my content, then hey, maybe one day you'll decide to give that back. That would be great. You can also use my affiliate links, which are down below all my videos. I mention the affiliate links, and the reason I do that is because it's really easy for you to do. It doesn't cost you. Your price doesn't go up. And when you use those affiliate links, I get a small commission off any purchase you make. It really does add up. So it means a lot. If you just click those links, this is my website. You can just go here, click those links every morning. And then whenever you do your normal shopping, I get a little cut, and that really helps. That's going to do it for the live stream. Thank you guys very, very much for showing up. I will see you next week, and I'll see you all this week. This week, I want to do a Betaflight 4.0 tuning video. Betaflight 4.0 has a lot of new features, a lot of new tune. The default tune feels very different. So I've got a quadcopter that I'm going to be, it's a hyper-low vert frame with the iFlight Zing motors. I'll be reviewing the hyper-low vert frame. I just recorded that today. And I'm going to be doing a Betaflight 4.0 tuning video this week, hopefully. I want to get my Beast class worked on and in the air. That's lower on the priority list, but... and I want to get my other quadcopters moved over to the Marmot frame and see how the Marmot frame is flying. Those are some of the things on my list. Any products to review? I don't know about that. But that's what we're talking about. Thank you guys so much for watching. Look forward to all that. I'm out of here. Happy flying, everybody. Good night.